Alrighty, thank you so much for joining us for the December meeting on the Commission on Civics Education. If everybody would like to start by just doing a quick introduction of yourselves. Again, I'm Jennifer Boysko. I represent the 38th Senate District, and this is my second full term on the commission. If you'd like to, we can go down this way, and then we can go down this way, just for quick introductions for everybody again, since some people are new.
I'm Delegate Dolores Oates. I represent the 31st District, and that would include Warren County, parts of Frederick County, and Clark County.
Hi, I'm Jim Dillard. I'm a former government teacher in Fairfax County.
I'm adjunct professor at George Mason University.
Lucille Miller. I'm with the League of Women Voters.
Jeff Walters, citizen member of commission, former teacher, currently legislative director for House of Delegates member Gilbert.
My name is Benson Redman. I'm a citizen member. I'm a current teacher at John Battle High School in Bristol, Virginia.
My name is Adam Wallach. I'm from Stafford County. I'm a former educator and now work in ed tech.
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Pearson. I'm a citizen member. I currently work as a lobbyist at Two Capitals Consulting here in Richmond and also serve as an ex officio board member of the Virginia Public Access Project, or better known as VPAP.
And I think we have at least one member online. Delegate Reeser.
Morning, Senator Boysko and everyone. I'm Delegate Reeser. I represent Eastern Loudoun County in Virginia's 27th House District.
Teresa, are you there?
I'm here. I'm Teresa Metricardi. I'm from Culpeper County and have been a licensed teacher and school psychologist for 28 years.
Excellent. So thank you so much for the brief introductions, since we have still a new group working together. The first order of business would be our report from our work group who met earlier this morning. And Mr. Dillard, who is chairing that work group, has a brief report to tell us about what the group decided.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Appreciate it. Yes, we had a productive meeting this morning, and we looked at 4 things that the Commission should be looking at in the next year, and hopefully have some reports by our spring meeting. And the first one, which deserves a double star, is the website that presently is moribund for all intents and purposes, and we feel it's very, very important that if we're going to communicate with teachers and try to inform teachers, and one of our missions is to provide teachers with various resources in civic education, that it's essential that we have a working website. And some other people may want to make some comments about that from our working group, but that is absolutely the number one priority for the Commission in this next year. And hopefully by next spring, we will have a outline of the things we'd like to see on the website and some idea of how it might be funded and maintained.
Are there comments from other members who were present at the meeting this morning? Alrighty, hearing none. Thank you for the work, and I appreciate that. Yeah. You all spent the entire morning.
The second thing that we looked at, we felt was important, is to reestablish our coalition of various organizations across the state that would be helpful in promoting civic education. And in that line, in prior years, we've held a seminar meeting, of which the various organizations presented their views and how they could actually help the commission. And so it may be the will of the commission to see if we can set up something between now and the spring that would bring the various coalition members together. Any other comments on that? The third thing was literacy media. There's no question that our students need a lot of help, and parents too, for that matter, in the area of finding out what's real and what's not so real in the media. And so the idea was that we would try to get some members of the various media from top to bottom, along with some students, to try to see if we can flesh out some direction in that particular area. Comments? And the last thing was a continuing concern and one of the real mission statements of the commission, and that is to have various means that students can participate directly in the decision-making and learn how to be change agents. And so we looked at two levels there. One level dealing with the state government and the General Assembly, and the other level looking at local government and how students can get directly involved in the various issues that are of concerns to them. Again, hopefully we can have some members that would work to look at some of the various models that can be used, and we discussed a number of those kind of models today. And in summary, that's what we're recommending, the four areas.
Thank you so much. Delegate Oates, did you have a question or comment?
On the coalition, do you have identified the members of the potential members of that coalition, who those potential organizations would be?
Well, we have a whole list, and they go from like Municipal League, the Council of Counties, VACO, and people from the media, people from places like YMCA that work directly with students. And so the list, the whole long list of people we can have on there, and we've had before. So the list is, 20, 25 people long that might be interested in supporting civic education. So it's not a problem finding them. The problem is calling them and see if they're willing to work with us and see whether they'd be interested in making a presentation to some sort of seminar or meeting.
Alice, you had a question or comment?
Delegate Oates, I think that's part of the work, is to identify which ones we already have within the state in order to try to connect them, because a lot of times everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And so the vision is to see how we can sort of bridge that together and bridge that communication to share it out with teachers and educators.
Delegate Dillard, thank you for your engagement on that. I think it's very important that we are moving forward with our plan for next year. Does that, if we, ask the rest of our members, does this seem like the direction that makes sense for us? Do we have consensus that we're in support of taking these initiatives? Okay. So it looks like everybody's head is nodding. I'm not going to ask for a formal vote, but appreciate that work. The next thing that we wanted to talk about.
Chairman, before we get to the summit, which I see is next on the list.
Yes, sir.
We may want to think about, or you can think about, and let us know who might like to serve on some of these issues.
If you all would like to do that work today, we can do that. Are there people who would like to serve as a lead on the website
I think one of the members
Commission.
we need to have is Christonia. She's officially, I don't know why you're sitting down, don't you have a name tag up here? They haven't officially, you've been granted permission to be part of this commission.
Yes, but I don't have a name tag, so I was taking notes from this seat. But I will say about the website. Currently, the Virginia Department of Education maintains a web page based on what is written in code for the commission. So we post the agendas from different meetings and definitely from the civic summits each year. From that page, it links out to civic resources that over the years have been either recommended to the department. We also maintain a list of organizations that we work with for teacher professional development. So that would not be a problem at all. And then, of course, students, anything dealing with students, we would definitely be involved with. And then through a connection through our English office, we can really look at media literacy because they have standards that point towards media literacy. And I believe there is possibly proposed legislation for media literacy when session starts back up. At least that's what a student told me, that he and his friends worked on legislation and working with their local delegate to put forth legislation for media literacy. So all of those I would be happy to support. I just don't think I could lead any of those subcommittees.
So Christonia, if one of our members takes, when that member takes on the lead for being the liaison with you, you're saying that we would be able to provide you with expanded content, get links to other organizations and groups, and then post other events that we might be doing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the subcommittee talked about a website that would be much more than what is offered on the DOE site. So we could link out to this new and still maintain what we are obligated by code.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So again, we would entertain a nomination for someone to serve as the primary liaison to focus on the website.
And Madam Chair,
yes,
I apologize. Regarding Christonia Brown's appointment, if you could just forward us the letter from the speaker. We just need that letter, and then I'd be happy to add you up here. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
I've never developed a website. I know what makes a good website, but I've never actually developed it. So I think we need a...
Sure. I don't think we need to have one of us develop it ourselves. It would be the person who would be the point of contact for whoever the web developer is to help make certain that they're being told to put the information up on the website and perhaps help us guide.
Okay.
kind of the implementation of it, not the execution of it. That I can't imagine that one of us is a web developer in this group. Does that make sense?
I will be happy to work on it.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
I just
great,
think
Alice. You're Lucille, excuse me, okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'd also be happy to work on this as well, but I also would say I think it might be helpful to have our civics teacher on the commission on that work group as well, given we are trying to create a tool for teachers. I hate to volunteer more work for our friend from Bristol here, but I think having a teacher such as yourself is in the classroom now would be critical for that group's work as we're building a website for you and your colleagues.
okay, great, thank you. Oh, Glenn, Glenn, you have the floor.
Madam Chairman, did you say you wanted to be a member? I didn't hear.
Am I audible? Am I coming across? Okay.
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Sorry. Curious as whether there is a budget available for the design and development and maintenance of the website?
We are working on getting those figures, Glenn. There is a budget. We have a budget allocation in the appropriation, through appropriated funding at the Commonwealth. I don't have those numbers, but I think Ryan Bremer might.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So we were able to confirm between the meeting this morning and now that the commission does have 15,773 available in its fund right now. Most of that amount is set aside for meeting expenses.
And we also have the ability to raise money from private sources through the code enables us to be able to do that. So,
I'd be glad to serve on the committee.
okay, great. Thank you so much. So on that committee, I have Lucille, Randy Benson, and Glenn for the website. Does that everybody agree with that? Okay. So if we're going to go through the other items that were listed earlier, the next would be the coalition building with other civics-minded organizations. We would need Alice. Okay. Alice will do that. Anyone want to work with Alice on this coalition building?
I think if I don't volunteer, I'm walking home. So I would be happy to work with Alice on that.
Right. Alice and Adam. Anyone else want to assist with that? Okay. So that is our coalition building committee, Alice and Adam. Next, we had the media literacy. And one of the things that we had talked about was perhaps partnering with a community college or a university to do it in concert with them. And we felt that might bring a larger participation from a broader group of folks. Benson, you seem to be interested in that. Would you want to help with that?
I can do that, Madam Chair. Admittedly, it's actually the next item that I would really like to jump in on, as that was one of the things that I brought. One of the ideas that I brought up in committee was working on that. I'm happy. I serve at the pleasure of the committee, but admittedly, I would much prefer to work on the next item and really kind of take the hit on that one.
Okay, so if you want to go on, you'll be on the student engagement. That's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
one that you prefer. Okay. So we need somebody who would be willing to assist with the coalition, the media literacy. Jim and Alice, Jim, you seem to be really interested in that too. Would you and Alice want to work on that together?
I thought that I had been volunteered to sort of oversee.
Okay.
Official member of all the committees.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Whatever.
Okay. So, Alice.
I'd be happy to help with that because I've done a lot of research on it.
Okay. Great. Okay. So that I have Lucille and Alice, and Jim will be kind of floating through as many of these as possible. And then the student engagement, focus on state and local government, that was Benson wants to take the lead on that. And are there other members who would like to?
Senator Boysko, I would love to participate with that.
Madam Chair, I would as well.
And Randy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And we
I
have
would
a,
also love to participate. This is Therese Metricardi, sorry.
Teresa, okay. Great. And I know we have some members who are not here, and we can certainly filter them in as they see fit. And I will try to participate in as many of these as also. It sounds like we've got a really good group, though. So do you want me to read? That's 4. So I have for the website oversight, Lucille, Randy, Benson, and Glenn with Christania as the VDOE contact. I have for the coalition building, Alice and Adam. For the media literacy, Alice and Lucille. And the student engagement, Benson, Dolores, Randy, and Teresa. And I think other legislative members, I bet, would love to do that as well. I'm hearing from Delegate Reeser that she's happy to participate in any way she can be helpful. And we appreciate that, Delegate. Any other comments from members? No? Okay, well, I think we have at least a good structure to get us started on meeting these goals. I think it's really important that we're all taking responsibility.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just a point of clarification. Our goal is to have some kind of work done so that at our spring meeting, we are reporting back on actions.
That is my expectation and hope, that we would have some actual movement on these, whether it's, pulling together resources for the website and finding a vendor if that's necessary for the website, identifying what organizations we want to participate with on the coalition building, maybe setting up some initial plans for events on the media literacy and then working with different schools for the student engagement seems like a start.
Madam, have we designated a chair of each of these subcommittees?
I think the subcommittees could choose the chair amongst themselves rather than us delegate that right now, if that's okay. But we do have the committee members, at least a group started on each of them, and so then they should be able to work together. And we have the ability through the FOIA rules that these meetings could be done remotely through Zoom, but there needs to be 24 hours notice. Is that correct, Ryan and Lindsay? 24 hours notice before. Oh, it's 3 business days, excuse me. Thank you for the clarification.
Did you say 3 business days?
3 business days.
Interesting. Okay.
And so you would need to work with Lindsay and Ryan and me to make sure that we're getting those all taken care of. And Christania, I would hope that, especially on the student engagement, that might be something that you would be able to participate on as well. I think that's a pretty big piece. And the media literacy possibly also. Okay. Very good.
Senator Boysko.
Yes, Delegate.
On those, will they be required to be recorded, the meetings? Do you know, is that a FOIA requirement that they're recorded? Okay. Thank you. The rules have changed, so I just want to be clear on what the expectations are. Thank you.
It's confusing, right? Because it used to be that 3 people could just sit in a room and iron out something. We try to adhere to
Right, the big
public
thing is
meeting.
that the public has the same access as you, so if it's fully online, then they need to have the ability to also be there. Okay. Is the general thought.
Thank you.
Great. Good. Wow. Excellent work, team. Moving right along. Is there anything else that we need to discuss around the new work groups that have just been formed? Okay. Hearing none. If, Jim, if you would like to give us an overview of the Teacher Summit, were there other people in our group who were able to be there? I was out of town, unfortunately, was not able to be there, but I heard really good things about it. Adam, you were there as well. Did you want to?
I was there. Alice was also there. So I felt like the summit was very successful. It seemed like the teachers, who were there, seemed to be engaged. As Jim always says, every year, the professors that we bring in that do a breakdown of the elections, I think is probably still the highlight. We had some really good organizations there that teachers could go around and get resources from. So all in all, I felt like it was very successful.
That's great. Yeah. Alice?
One of the feedback that I got from a couple of the vendors that we asked was about access, because we had asked several vendors and we had a separate room with that they could go and talk to these people with resources. And because of the scheduling, we had a 10-minute break and then we have 45 minutes for lunch. So the only time they really got to talk to teachers was during the 45 minutes. And if they came from other areas of the state, it wasn't really worth the time for them, because it was only 45 minutes with teachers. So that is something we need to think about in the future in terms of, do we still want to include them? And if we do, how can we give them more access to more time for access, or just not include them?
Can you tell us some of the? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in answer to that, they are well aware of what the situation is when we invite them, that there's going to be a limited time, and if it's worth their while, they can be there. We certainly welcome them, but certainly pick up on what Alice is saying. We might want to try to work in a little more time than that they can actually have access to the teachers. But it's always been limited. It's always been the same rules of the game as long as we've done that. We've always had exhibitors there, and they know the rules of the game, but it certainly could be improved. The one concern that I had particularly that I mentioned to the small group is the fact that 26 of our teachers signed up and didn't show. And that's very hurtful in a number of different ways. And I'm hoping that we can somehow address that with a letter to those teachers. We have their emails, and ask them, first of all, explain to them that it's a cost in a number of different ways that they sign up and don't show, but also to find out if there was some kind of circumstances that could be improved as far as attendance. But I would like to see that followed up.
Sure, thank you. So I have on board that Lucille and Adam have comments or questions. Lucille?
Do you want to speak to this?
Did you want to speak?
Sorry.
Oh, I have you in the queue as wanting to speak. How about you, Adam?
Jim, do you think that part of the issue was that we held the summit on a holiday?
Well, the answer to that is we weren't sure whether it would help or hurt, and I don't think we still know. We had about the same number of teachers actually sign up. It's always around 100, 110, 115 that sign up, and most of the time, most of the people have attended. Now, whether or not the holiday had an effect, that's one of the things we would like to ask. If we send out a letter to these teachers to no-shows, we could ask that question.
Okay, I was just wondering because in the subcommittee group, I asked the question about whether that was a high number, and obviously it is. So, obviously if you sign up, you should attend. However, knowing that for a lot of teachers, they may have had that day off, that may have contributed to the lack of strong attendance that we normally see.
Given the best of all possible worlds, Madam Chairman, I wouldn't have picked that date, but that was the only date that we could get the majority of people together. So we really didn't have any choice. And the other thing that I would mention about the summit is it's the second year we've had it at the Museum of History and Culture. And anybody in the commission, I hope, would like to do it there again for any number of different reasons. They're very cooperative. The parking is not a problem, and they would very much like to have us do it again. So it's a win-win situation, I think, if we can continue to do it there.
Thank you. I think it might be an interesting thing to do a follow-up letter to everybody who attended, to do a little, questionnaire. What would you find helpful? What would you like different? Just so that we are learning So that's something that I'm putting down as an action item on my part.
Just as long as we have something that makes the people who didn't show feel really guilty.
You never know what's happening, in people's lives. Other input or thoughts?
Well, as far as the summit goes, the main thing is we need to start working on it next spring, and to set a date. There's plenty of time. If it starts in the spring, there's plenty of time to set a date and to. I always, when I have some say in working on that, at least the one thing that I've had to do each year is to find our two pundits, a date that both of them, because as Adam pointed out, they're kind of like the highlight of the meeting. And so as long as I can find a date, if I'm still doing that, the date would revolve around the first week after the election or a few days after the election, and a day that both of those guys are available.
Yeah. And I think it's probably not too soon to start thinking about that now, so we can get the date that we want so that we get the biggest attendance possible. But, you did so much.
If you'd like, I can email both of my friends and see if they are free and what day it works for them, because they may have, or like you say, they may already have stuff on the calendar.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So I will do that this week then.
Okay, thank you. And Jim, I would just like to thank you publicly for all the work that you did. You really spearheaded the entire thing, and Alice and Adam for all the participation and effort. And my chief of staff, Karen Harrison, did a lot of work behind the scenes to get it together. But this was not something that just.
Well, I appreciate the work they did in getting to the exhibitors and so forth there. And
all of you who participated. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
A couple of things. First off, thank you so much, Mr. Dillard. As far as the Civic Summit is concerned, I know our teachers really, really look forward to the summit every year. I start getting emails regarding the summit as early as August sometimes. One suggestion that I do have, if we could think about a reliable date every time so that the calendar, it doesn't matter where it falls, if we always know it's going to be the Thursday after the election, something like that, the teachers can really think about. It doesn't matter whether that's Veterans Day or not. That's something they can rely on. The second thing is, in the past, in helping to support the summit, we have done a follow-up survey using one of the different platforms, and that's how many times people would also earn their professional development points by not only attending the Civic Summit, but also completing the survey and getting back to us so that we could collect data on what worked for them, what didn't work for them, time, space, food, all of that. So I do have previous surveys that we may have done maybe 4 or 5 years ago, just for questions if you want to do something like that for teachers. It's just really much easier. I really like the idea of always trying to have it in this area because this is where our state government is, and giving teachers an opportunity to come here. I know that at one time we had talked about moving it across the summit, across the state, to give teachers in different areas access to the summit, but I think there's something about bringing teachers here that that really works as far as learning about different things. As far as the organizations, I know that came up. The organizations that presented during the summit, I think teachers went back to their tables either right before or right after they presented. So thinking about bringing those people who have tables into the program kind of brings in that familiarity. So that might be something to consider because they're going to revisit those tables. I think that's it as far as my suggestions go.
Yes, Mr. Dillard.
One of the things we've had in the past is that they've always been recorded and put online, and she mentioned one of the things that are on our website are some of the past conferences we've had. Unfortunately, there was not enough time this year to get that done, but I have communicated with WHRO, which is the Norfolk Tidewater Educational TV, and they are anxious to resume doing that.
Good.
So it would be made available. This time, I brought my home camera, and it was recorded. We had one guy turn it on and turn it off, and I gave the chip, I think, to Ryan. Somebody from Legislative Services that was there received the chip. Think we'd find it? Huh?
I'm not sure. One of my colleagues was there. So.
Yes. So I gave it to somebody. I don't think anybody will ever read it, but at least it put it up on the website for anybody that wants to, because it did not follow the people as they moved around. It just was on the roster off and on. But it is recorded if anybody wants it.
Well, I think that would be great if we could get that put up on the website that Christonia could help us with, if we can find that. But I think that's great. So we have some feedback and the capacity to do the survey, and you can help us with that. And then you're going to get the date for next year, so we can make sure that everybody can pick the best day possible for the participation. So very good. There's one. So, is there anything else on the Teacher Summit that anybody wanted to speak about? Adam, go ahead.
As we begin thinking about next year's summit, we have a gubernatorial election coming up. Once the major party candidates are identified, if it's possible to invite them. I remember one year, and Delegate Dillard or Alice may remember this, when we held the summit here, we actually got the governor to come and speak to teachers. And that was definitely a highlight. So if it's possible, once the two parties have identified who's going to be running, if we can invite them, it might be interesting to have them both there and kind of recap what happened, from their view. Something like that, or give them separate times to address. And I don't know how you go about saying this invitation is contingent upon your victory.
Oh, there's plenty of that.
Is there? Okay. I mean,
happens.
if there's a tactful way to do it, I don't have a problem with that. But I think that would be definitely something that teachers who are in attendance would, gain a lot from. So if it's possible, we should definitely, once we identify a date, reach out to those candidates early and see if we can get on their calendars.
Yeah, that would be needed to be done sooner rather than later, I would imagine, because I know that their calendars do fill up quickly, and it's certainly an interesting thing. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it'd be interesting.
I'm sure that I could get Winsome to come, and maybe you could work with Abigail. Do you know her?
Yeah, I know Abigail. I do. Congresswoman Spanberger.
I think we need to decide whether we want both of them or just one.
I think probably if it's days after a pretty tough election, that's a lot for us to ask someone who wasn't successful to come and talk about it. That's a difficult thing. Having run in a couple of races, you're pretty tired after that's over. And
Well, you're saying that we shouldn't invite them?
I'm saying I don't know that you want to ask the person who wasn't successful to come. I feel like that's
yes.
that's asking of a lot of them. Okay. All righty. I will speak with the Spanberger team. But again, we have to wait until the nomination process is finished, and we cannot make assumptions today, but assuming, we will have that on our list.
Well, I'll see if I can get a commitment from Winsome Sears.
All righty. Assuming that she's the nominee.
And that whoever wins.
Correct. But again, we have to wait until we know exactly who the nominees are officially, because anything can happen in Virginia politics.
Done deal. We can certainly wait.
All righty. So in other business, one of the things that we talked about in the work group was dealing with controversial issues and how teachers are to address those. And there actually on my desk is a piece of paper that lays out what the philosophy for educators in dealing with issues that they know are controversial, the role of the teacher, and how we deal with speakers on controversial issues and distribution and display of literature and controversial issues. I will enter that. We can enter that into the minutes, perhaps. And does everybody have a copy of this on the dais? I know our remote members don't have it, but there was a question of whether or not we had a policy as things get more heated in our civic engagement, for us to familiarize ourselves with that, and to see how we can, again, try to encourage civility and the ability for people to disagree without being disagreeable. Alice?
Could I ask where did this come from? And is this something who has access to it, I guess?
Right.
Yeah, Madam Chair, so there was as you stated, there was a question of this policy during the work group meeting. So I went back and dug it up in between that meeting and this meeting. As Mr. Dillard mentioned, this was something that this commission endorsed in 2016. And then I had in my notes that when you were on the board at this time, Mr. Dillard, you presented this to the Board of Education for endorsement. I believe that it failed on a 4-4 vote, and then you presented it again. I was not able to determine what happened at that time. So I'm not sure whether the Board of Education also endorsed it, but certainly this commission did endorse this as a guidance document for school divisions to use as it relates to presenting controversial instructional materials.
Madam Chair, my question, I guess, is a procedural question. So the commission endorsed this back in 2016. I remember that. what would be the next steps if the commission would like to sort of roll it back out? Does it need Board of Education approval? Would it, like, how does this go out to, like, the superintendents, or does anyone know what that process is, Kristania?
Ryan, could you give us some guidance on what a process would be? Would we want to take a vote and endorse this and then ask the VDOE to consider it, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, you could, there was obviously a different commission at that time with different members, so you could take a look and vote to re-endorse it. In terms of getting it out to the school divisions, I think I present this to you now because the discussion at the work group was whether you'd want to have this as a document that's posted on the new website when that's eventually procured and put up. So you could handle it that way. You could wait and handle it that way, or yeah, we can have a discussion with the department about somehow getting this out to division superintendents. Ms. Brown is coming to the podium.
Yeah, Kristania, do you want to give us some thoughts?
Sure. Just what Ryan said. The first thing is to determine how the commission feels about it. So are there any edits or changes in the language that's there? Because this was 2016, almost 10 years ago. And then either going through the DOE to go through their approval process, and if it's something that they want to even take to the board. You are thinking about, as far as the commission is concerned, you are thinking about a separate website that is not directly connected to the DOE, or DOE isn't the parent of the website. And if it's just something the commission wants to endorse, then you can put it on your website as this is how the commission feels. And as far as going through the Department of Ed or the Board of Ed, really thinking about letting division superintendents know that this is on your website. It's not necessarily waiting around to see if the Board of Ed is going to endorse it or the Department of Ed is going to endorse it. This is something we, the commission, feel strongly about, and it's on our website. And that way you don't have to go through the other two entities. But if you do want to go through those other two entities, starting with the Department of Ed, the DOE, and then taking it to the board. Or as a fourth or fifth, whatever number we're on, looking at going through the Secretary's office, Secretary of Education, and then either to the board or to the department. That's if you want that endorsement. But if it's something that the commission feels strongly about, and this is where we stand as a commission, then just sticking with the commission and the commission's eventual website to where this is our statement and not necessarily the department or the Board of Education. But educators would have access to the policy by visiting your website.
Yes, Mr. Dillard.
At this, whatever. As we were looking at this, it was never intended that this would be a policy that would be mandated the localities. It was always an option that they could keep what they had, but there was an encouragement to adopt some form of memorandum on it, so that teachers have some sort of guidelines.
Kristania, I have a question. Are you hearing from teachers in the interactions that you have with teachers across the state that they're having a challenge right now? I'm hearing from people in my community about specific things that are controversial and hearing that there's a lot of pain going on. But I'm wondering if you're hearing that from
It varies from community to community, and it also varies the main thing for teachers when it becomes controversial is their knowledge of content and how comfortable they feel with that content. If you're very knowledgeable of something, then you have that confidence, and it's less controversial to you, maybe controversial to someone else in that they may have a different perspective. Even something that we think as very simple as student engagement, well, another person may see that as student advocacy in a negative light. And that's different. And it's just like you said earlier, learning how to debate and have civil conversations and agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And that's one of the things that we really want to teach students how to do, but a teacher has to feel comfortable in teaching that to students to where it doesn't break out into this argument within their classroom that spills over into the community with parents. So helping everyone understand how to do that. And I think that's a big part of this guidance. And anything can be controversial, but understanding that everyone's going to have a different perspective and being respectful of that difference in opinions.
Thank you. Randy, did you have something you wanted to ask or say?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a question. I don't know if this is for a previous speaker or just for the group as a whole, but as a new member of the commission, is this statement something that we've had feedback for previously from education stakeholder groups like the Virginia Association of School Superintendents, the School Boards Association, and other groups that may weigh in on something like this, just for my education, and is this something that we've heard from them on?
Randy, I was not a member in 2016, so this is a new document to me as well. I am not aware, but I think Christania just said that they had a vote in 2016, and it was 4-4.
And
that was before. Was
that
VDOE? Was that
that was the board?
Mr.
Diller, you were still on the board at that time, and I don't remember if you all sent it to the school board associations or the superintendents to have them weigh in. I don't remember that. Okay.
Just a follow-up comment then, Madam Chair. Just maybe this is something that needs to be slow walked a little bit and just take some time for members of the board to digest. And I know we're going to have a meeting again, in the beginning of next year potentially, or soon. And so it might be something that we just need to take a look at and then come back with some more thought, and also maybe bring in some other stakeholders for feedback, given the amount of time that has lapsed since this was last taken up by the board. But again, I'm new to the board, so I will defer to the will of the group.
I absolutely agree. It was not on our agenda. It just happened to come up this morning in the work group, and Ryan was so good to find the actual language. So I do think it's something that we might want to think about. I'll just say that I've spoken to people in my community, and there is definitely we are finding a lack of being able to disagree with one another. Without being disagreeable with one another. And I think that is if we can learn that life lesson, I think that would be huge. Alice, you had something you wanted to say.
I believe this was developed in 2016 based upon members who were on the commission, their experiences in school systems, which is how it kind of came about. I would also agree that I think we need to bring it to other stakeholder groups like the state superintendent's group, the secondary principals group, in order to get their take and buy-in on it before we go further in order to formalize it and then possibly go to the State Board of Education.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Is that Teresa?
It's
Delegate Reeser. Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. I did have my hand raised, but I'm not sure what your setup is like and whether you could see it. So I think a couple of the comments I wanted to offer may have been made by some of the other members. I do think, since it wasn't on the agenda, taking some time to reflect on this, as there are some school divisions that do have board policies on controversial topics and the discussion thereof, and how they should be handled. So perhaps having the feedback from superintendents might be helpful in considering either the language that exists or additional other language that might be necessary. So I think several colleagues have made a few of these points already, and I just wanted to chime in and make sure that the commission was aware of the fact that there are school divisions that in the interim have passed some robust and specific policies addressing this topic as well.
Thank you so much, Delegate Reeser. And as a former school board member, I know that you are familiar with this issue. So do we want to put this on an agenda in the future? How would you all like to address this so that we fully vet it and Alice, see your face?
I would say, first of all, we need feedback from here, from this group, in terms of if we want to have any edits. So I think it needs to be sent out to the full commission so the people that are not here have a chance to weigh in. Then bring that piece to the state superintendents and to the secondary, in particular secondary principals. I mean, you can even bring it to the elementary principals for, like, I'm thinking fifth, sixth grade kind of thing, and get their feedback sort of like as a focus group kind of thing, feedback, and then bring all that back to the full commission to say, okay, what of that feedback do we want to change before we finalize the document? Once the document has been finalized, then decide what we want to do next with it. Do we want to just post it on our website? Do we want to go to DOE? Do we want to go to the Secretary of Education? Whatever. But at least that way, we will have had the input from the other stakeholders, as was mentioned.
Madam Chair, I might take it a step further and just say maybe at our next meeting, the agenda item is to have someone from VOS or a relevant organization here to present on what is happening in the field right now with this, so that we can ask questions and see what has changed in the last nearly decade since this was last taken up by the council. I think that could be helpful, but I, again, defer to the will of the group.
Thank you. So is that a motion to bring a representative before the group at our next meeting and to
I wasn't intending to make a motion, but I'm happy to make a motion if folks are amenable to that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there anyone in opposition of continuing this conversation in our next meeting and bringing someone to speak to us to talk about the concept, this document, as well as what they're doing? Is that?
I'd like to suggest adding a person from outside the community necessarily who is actively involved in dealing with controversial issues and how they're presented and vetted. I can't think of any one person in particular right now, but I think that there are any number of different organizations, whether it's the American Historical Association, whether it's the American Academy of Arts and Sciences that just released a very interesting monograph on habits of heart and mind, which deals with some of these issues as well. So, a bigger picture, perhaps with a broader set of concerns, might be helpful at the same time.
Okay, thank you for that. Would you be able to help us identify the folks you had in mind?
Madam Chair, one last thing, and I promise to stop talking, but I would like to suggest that we really think about what is the ultimate goal here? What are we trying to say with this document? Gathering all of the data is fine, but ultimately, what's the purpose? What's the goal? And be able to stick with that, because there can be so many different ways that this can be looked at from the outside. Are we making a statement about what is taught, or are we trying to help teachers? What is the ultimate goal with this document? I just want to put that out there because I think I remember when this went before the board and people didn't know really, I think, how to receive it. I think that's how we got that 4-4 vote, not knowing exactly what the purpose of this document is. Is it guidance? Is it mandatory? What's the purpose? And be able to state that first and foremost, and then come up with whatever it is, suggestions or what have you. So I just wanted to put that out there first for us before we go down this line of gathering and having people come in and we do all this work. What's the purpose? What are we trying to say with that?
Thank you. Thank you. Adam had his hand up, and then you're next.
Originally, and I was not on the commission at the time, but I was here for the meeting. This was developed, if I remember correctly, Jim, as number one, as Jim already stated, that there were a number of school systems that did not have a policy, and also an attempt to encourage a policy that would therefore protect teachers. I think one thing that we would need to do, and I don't know how easy it would be to do it, is to figure out how many school divisions still lack a policy. And if they all have a policy at this point, do we feel like it provides adequate protection to teachers? If it does, then this is not necessarily an actionable item going forward if it's already been addressed.
Okay.
And you know, I feel pretty confident in saying that we probably don't know that right now. So I don't know what the process is to gather that data on which school systems actually have a policy, which don't, what their policies are, and then I guess as a commission, if we feel like, you know, the policies are not adequate or they're kind of all over the place, then encouraging, you know, a policy from, you know, I guess the Superintendent's Association, you know, that would kind of clean it up, I guess. But if there's adequate policy in place, then this kind of becomes a moot point.
Said most of what I was thinking. The one thing I'd add is it's one thing to say, well, let's poll all the school systems, but it's another thing, and maybe Christina can address this, about how many responses you get. I know that when we did this, I think there were a couple of us that were making the calls, and we were physically calling superintendents and talking to many of them directly about this. And I guess, I don't remember how many they were, but they were quite a number of superintendents and school systems that never got back to us. Christonia, you can give us an idea of what we're up against.
One more time for the question.
Well, what is the general response from school system when you send out a superintendent's memo and want feedback?
There's a lot that plays into that in a sense of the time of year that we're doing it. If you send something around May, June, you're probably not going to get August, September. This is probably the best time in December, right before a winter break, or sometimes in March. It's really hard for a superintendent to do it, or even a building principal. So looking at those down times, if they ever have them, at a conference where you have many superintendents coming together, you may get, as a part of that conference, asking, can we do a survey as a part of your conference? You'll probably get a lot more response, higher in the 70, maybe 70%, whereas if you just send it out blind from the Civic Commission, it's probably going to be low.
The question that comes from us is not going anywhere. If we wanted to do this with the Department of Education, do a poll on controversial issues, I mean, you get a heck of a lot better response than we would, and that would answer Adam's question is, there's no point in doing it if they already have them.
Right. And generally, we could even look at their websites to see if that policy is stated there. And I think we kind of did that before, but again, that was 10 years ago, almost. So,
And that's hard.
yeah.
It really is hard. Madam Chair, can we direct the Department of Education to send out a superintendent's questionnaire?
Well, if that is the will of the committee, again, I know that everybody agreed that we would want to gather more information. Is this the direction you all feel would be the best way to go? If so, okay. Alice has another thing to say.
Couldn't we just ask VAS to, and do something them directly?
The Virginia Association of
School Superintendents? Couldn't we just go directly to them?
It seems that we
might be easier than going through Christania VDOE, or I'm thinking the elementary group at the high school principals, administrators.
That was kind of my thought behind having them come to present or talk to us. Is I feel like they would, with enough notice, to be able to pull the information together that we need and be able to answer our questions on what's happening in the field. But I will, again, defer to the will of the group on that. I just think that was my thought as well.
Yeah, and that I think that makes sense. And even if we don't take action, or, I mean, because again, this was just brought up this morning, this was not part of our official agenda, but I think we all agree that it is an important issue for everybody in our society. Just having the conversation could be valuable, I think, with the school superintendents, just for the value of having the conversation if we end up doing nothing but that. So I'm supportive of that if the rest of the committee is.
A building principal may not know, but the School Board Association and the State Superintendents Association, I'm working with those two, would know better about the division policy, more so than a building principal. A building principal may know, but those two entities would work more with it being policy for the division.
Alice?
I'm just going to say they may not know the policy, but I also think that building principals carry a lot of sway in terms of what they allow or don't allow in their buildings. And so, contrary to what the district policy may be, the principal is also going to do what they feel is appropriate for their community. I don't mean it in a negative way, but it's for what's appropriate in their community. And so that's why I think going to the different levels of groups, we might have some very differing opinions about whether or not it's even an issue.
Well, again, the purpose of this document, as stated, would provide guidelines for school-based and non-school-based administrators, teachers, and students in dealing with controversial issues in a way that develops critical thinking skills and reflects sensitivity to emotions that often engendered by such issues. I think it is a laudable goal to try to attain that, right? To be civically engaged in a way that doesn't harm others, but also helps people think critically. I would be happy for us in our next meeting to invite the school superintendents, the school board association, and is there an elementary or is there a principals association that?
Yes, there's both elementary and secondary.
So maybe we bring all four of those. Would you all like that? Now, Glenn had suggested we bring somebody outside who is not part of the education system officially. Is that something that you all agree would be of value, or do you think we need to focus in on just our education system at this point? Adam?
I think probably the first step is to talk to I'll call them internal stakeholders.
Okay.
The people within the Commonwealth, who are tied to educating our kids. At that point, again, if we feel like this is something that needs to be addressed, I think we can invite someone else in if we feel like that input is needed.
Glenn still has his hand up, so let's let him respond.
My response to that, Adam, with all due respect, is that I don't think we know enough about what the issue is amongst ourselves. And looking to what the state education leadership would provide doesn't necessarily mean that we're looking at the issue in its broadest spectrum. And I think that bringing someone else in to talk about the scope of these issues and how they could be addressed would inform whatever discussion we then have with superintendents, school board members, et cetera. In other words, we have to prepare ourselves before that meeting.
Following up on Adam's point of we don't know whether it's necessary or not, I don't think we need to go to a whole bunch of different groups. This is a decision that's made by the local school board. And so if we just address this to local school boards, the chairman of the local school boards, that would give us an indication of whether they do or do not have an actual policy on controversial issues.
Well, it sounds like we've got three different ideas here, and we need to get down to one consensus. We had the idea of bringing the school board associations, the superintendents, the principals at the higher end, in the elementary and the high school areas as one suggestion. Adam?
I think we also need to be cognizant of the amount of time that we'll have at a meeting to spend on this one issue.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps, one of the comments that was made earlier was slow walk this. That may have been yours. I think I agree with that. So if the feeling is that the school boards should know what their policies are, let's just reach out first to the school board association, and they should be able to know, especially if we give them a heads up on what we want them to talk about, give us a consensus of what school boards across the Commonwealth do in regard to controversial issues and speakers. And after that point, at subsequent meetings, we can invite other people in if we still feel like this is an issue.
Okay. Sorry about that. In our Civic Summit or another one of our larger meetings, perhaps we could dig into the civic engagement piece as the topic and bring an outside speaker in and then engage the public in that manner rather than focusing in on just our meetings. That might be helpful. Randy, you wanted to say something else. I apologize.
No, not at all. Madam Chair, I was just going to add that, I think my thought on Boss or whoever coming in was just to get more information, but I think we also would need to decide as a group, is this something that we feel is something we should wade into? Is this part of our core mission as a commission? Do we feel like we need to issue a statement on this? And that's certainly up to this group. I think that's part of the decision that we have to make here is, in addition to the other things we've talked about today about prioritizing, because this will consume a lot of bandwidth and time. Is this what we want to focus on?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I tend to agree with you and others. I think this is slow roll. It would be my thoughts on this. Let's find out what the commission as a whole thinks about this and prioritizing this, because it certainly will take up a lot of time, and we don't have we can't hammer folks into doing this in the roles of this commission. So I think just slowing this down a little bit would be helpful.
Delegate Racer, did you have something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to offer that the Virginia School Board Association may, while the title seems to imply that they may know what all the school boards are doing, information doesn't necessarily flow that way between the school boards and the school board association in terms of them having a complete handle on what policies all school divisions might have.
Appreciate that. Okay. Well, I think we should make a decision on is the will of the body to have someone come and address what the current policies are around the state. I think it's valuable. I would be happy to do that, and I think that it could help us have a meaningful conversation and help generate that. Is that, Mr. Dillard? Does that sound good? Is there anyone who would not like us to do that? And would it be the school board association? Would it be the superintendent's association? If we are worried about time. The superintendents? Okay, so do we have consensus that we would invite the superintendent's association and have them be the primary speaker then? And Glenn, I think I would love to have you work on a community-wide meeting on getting a speaker about civic engagement. I think that would really be something that could be interesting. Maybe, within our media literacy or student engagement or in our coalition building, perhaps there could be a place for that.
Definitely has a place within the new website.
Definitely, in the website, yeah, for sure. Okay.
That leads to a second question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
We've traditionally defined the role of the Civic Education Commission as being K-12. We're looking at a range of issues that go beyond that. And do we want to broaden our perspective? Are we allowed to by law? But if so, do we want to broaden our perspective to include community colleges, universities, and the general public in terms of providing information on civic engagement and civility? Because whatever happens in the school is percolating down. It's not percolating up.
So that's a good question, Glenn, and we actually went back to the code language this morning about the mission of this commission, and if you have that at your fingertips, if you could just read that so that we all are on the same page.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We did go back and look at it, and we saw that the second broad charge for the commission is to promote the study of state and local government among the Commonwealth citizenry. So while the commission has had a K-12 focus, it is actually a little bit broader in terms of the whole citizenry of the Commonwealth.
I think we've pretty much ignored that opportunity, and this might be a good issue on which to begin the process of engagement in that regard.
Thank you. I agree with you. Mr. Dillard.
I'm not quite sure where we are on controversial issues. My understanding, are we going to ask the State School Boards Association to poll their members? Is that where we are?
Mr. Dillard, I think what we talked about was inviting the Superintendents Association to present to us at the next meeting to have an initial conversation about what the various policies are around the Commonwealth regarding this controversial issue policy. Yeah, thank you. All right. Do we need a vote on that? Ryan or Lindsay, do we need to have a vote on setting the agenda? I feel that we've got broad consensus here. Nobody has expressed actual opposition, so I would say that I will put that on the agenda for next time as the chair. That's, and I think we can put that to bed for the moment. Is there any other business before we hear any public comment that may be out there? Lucille.
Have a question in terms of committees that we're on and communication. How do we communicate with our committee members can do it by email, in which case we need emails? Do we have to meet in person? I just need to know how to get this ball rolling.
You want to do that now? All righty. I think, so Lindsay just suggested that we have a chair for each of the subcommittees. Lindsay suggested that we pick chairs for each of the subcommittees, which I was going to suggest that the subcommittees do on their own and then report back. We are actually, the FOIA laws say that we're not supposed to have more than 2 members communicating with one another via email. So we really need to do all of our business at each of our meetings. And they can be virtual. We can do them by Zoom. But as you will remember, we have to have 3 days' notice so that if the public wanted to participate in any way, they would have the ability to do that. So it's just going to take some organization on our part of setting those dates for the subcommittee meetings. And then you would report back at our next meeting on the work that the subcommittee has done. How would a person organize that? So, Lindsay, would that be going through you all to organize a meeting?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, if you pick chairs for all 4, then they can communicate with me directly, and that would be
Okay, so we would need to choose a chair for each of the subcommittees, and then they would directly work with Lindsay to get the date and the time of those meetings, and she would distribute the information, the Zoom links and whatever. And two members could talk.
2 members can talk.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, you just get 2 people who want to be involved in the, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. I mean, we are trying to be transparent and give the public the opportunity to participate and listen in on how we are operating, because this is a public entity.
We're not actually making policy.
No.
We're just coming up with suggestions that then will be totally transparent. So 2 people can talk.
2 people can talk.
And so I guess I would say that on the website committee, would there be one other person that I might be a co-chair?
We could have that, yep.
Okay.
I would prefer that the subcommittees work and determine who their chairs are going to be.
If that's how you want to do it.
Unless we just want to have a show, somebody stand up and say, for the website committee, who wants to be we can do that, but I don't know that you all have determined who you want to. Adam?
I think that for the coalition building subcommittee, I think Alice already volunteered to be the chair of that.
All righty, so Alice, you're the chair for the coalition building. Let's go ahead and do it now then, so that there's no confusion. Lucille, did you want to be the chair for the website?
I'm happy to do it. I need probably some written instructions about exactly how I can meet with people. It seems like Christina would be the best person because we're going to be drawing a lot. So at least, could she be the person that I talk to see what on the DOE website that I use, and then could there be another?
Well,
if you have 2 people talking, could it be 2 people one time and then a different 2 people the next time?
That's okay. That works. Okay, so we have Alice as the chair of the coalition building. We have Lucille as the chair of the website building. So next we need the media literacy, and I have Alice, Lucille, or Christania. All right, Alice, chair. And then the student engagement, we've got
Madam Chair, I'm happy to take the
Benson.
lead on that.
Okay, your chair. All righty. So I will repeat that for the minutes. So for the website, chair is Lucille. For the coalition building, it is Alice, and Alice is also the media literacy person, and student engagement is Benson. And you all will work with Lindsay to find dates and times to hold virtual meetings are okay. You have to have 3 days' notice before you can have that meeting, right? And as I will try to participate in as many of those as possible, and I think Jim Dillard said that he would also. Yes.
Can we get emails for, say, for instance, so I could email people about dates of meetings and, I could do it individually?
Madam Chair.
Lindsay.
I can get with all of the chairs, but if you want to have a meeting with your subcommittee, if you email me, Lindley Starzer, L. Starzer, I've been in contact with most of you all. You email me, and then I would poll the remaining members within your subcommittee, and so I will be the in-between for the planning on that. Does that make sense?
Well, while we're in this big meeting, I just would like to ask the people on the website committee, how often do you want to meet?
Maybe we can get started and figure out what the agenda would be and then be able to, map it to a calendar and figure out what the frequency should be.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think we need to look at the timeline, right? I think we need to, the committee needs to set priorities and goals for how, what we want our end product to be. And I think then we go backwards and set the timeline from that. Okay. And again, when we're in session, members, General Assembly members and staff have limited capacity for doing anything during the General Assembly session. So if you could be generous with your timetable and your goal setting, I know it would be appreciated, especially on Lindsay and Ryan's part, and our ability. Those of us who are legislators just have no bandwidth during the session itself. So just to keep that in mind. And Lindsay, you have the names of all the people who said they wanted to be on each of the committees, so you can follow up with them directly. And if there are other members who are online who are not with us in person who want to participate in one of those, or if we have members who are not with us today, certainly there will be opportunity for folks to join in on any of those committees to assist in the organization. Lucille, does that, you feeling comfortable where we are? As far as with the subcommittees? Okay. Everybody okay? Great. Is there any other business that we want to tend to before we ask for public comment?
Could you also remind the subcommittee chairs that they're limited to the first and third full weeks, just like the full commission, the rules?
Okay, would you be able to perhaps, Lindsay, if you make that announcement, that would be helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Madam Chair, I just want to remind the subcommittee chairs, and we can go over this after the meeting if any of you all have any additional questions, but the subcommittees are also limited to the first full week and the third week of each month. Those are the pre-approved dates, the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the first full week and third week.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any person from the public who's wishing to speak today?
Hello.
If you could introduce yourself and tell us who you're with, that'd be great.
I'm Erin Hill from the Virginia Public Access Project, or also known as VPAP. Big fan of the commission work. I'm glad I've been marathon training because this is... I watched online this morning when the subcommittee was meeting, and it's been a long day, so I'll try to keep it brief. But in participating online with your subcommittee this morning and viewing that, I just wanted to share that we have some background knowledge that I think will make the work of the committee easier, and some things that we might be able to expedite in terms of the website build and coalition building. So working at VPAP, I'm the Civics Education Program Director for VPAP, and this year we developed Civics Navigator, which is our civics education program. It has online resources, free professional development for teachers, and communications that we send out regularly as well. I developed that along with Chris Piper, the Executive Director of VPAP, Nick Galvin, formerly JLARC, so a lot of the study things that you've brought up are present in our proposal for the program that we're building. Our panel of advisors is also comprised of 11 subject matter experts from a wide array of civics education-related backgrounds, including but not limited to Skylar Van Valkenburg and Kirk Cox. Dr. Riley is also on our panel of advisors, and currently we're also going to have Randy joining us there as well. So we've got a ton of experience to rely on, and we've consolidated and compiled a lot of the information that I think you all are looking for. So you can skip past those steps. We do have a document that I can share that compiles all the education programs, civics education programs in Virginia, and I'm happy to share those. So how can we help with this commission? I'm happy to support the web development. So Lucille, I think we met at the Virginia Civic Summit. Web development is a massive undertaking. We've developed our own Civics Navigator site with our team, and that's been a huge feat. There's a lot that goes into that. So I urge the panel to get really clear on your prioritization for that, because while you can hire a vendor web developer, you'll still need to have all those decisions made about what it looks like, where is it interactive, where is it not. There are a ton of decisions that will go into that. And I'm happy to support that in terms of sharing what we've had and what analytics we have about that, what teachers are clicking on, what's working, what's not. Maybe we can link our site to this commission site, in addition to linking that out to the VDOE, and also in addition to sharing that through our network. So I think there's a partnership opportunity there where we can amplify each other's efforts. And then in terms of the summit, I think it was great to reflect on that. I was thrilled to be able to share there what we're doing. I do suggest, and I'm happy to help, I don't know if Senator Boysko or with your team, maybe with you and Karen, just compiling all the links to presentations. So while we might not have a full recording, I think it would be good to share out as much as we can. And maybe we do that with the feedback survey. But happy to help in that effort. And that way, so just, again, more educators have access to it. And for planning in the next one, definitely want to recommend advertising sooner and making it complementary to the website. I think from this particular session, we mentioned a lot about how many existing programs there already are for civics ed. So we have simulation type organizations like We the People and the PAGE program and Model General Assembly. We also have, for media literacy, the work has been done. There are programs from the News Literacy Project, Common Sense Media that Alice mentioned earlier. Civic Online Reasoning from the Inquiry Group out of Stanford is incredible. I've used that in the classroom. So I think it's a matter of not recreating those programs, but just sharing them out. And in terms of civics education, again, iCivics through the Center for Civic Ed. I know that's the federal level, but that's more resources we could share out. And then in terms of data literacy, that's really where Civics Navigator is hoping to strengthen our students' ability to interpret data and media by providing the foundational understanding of how state and local government works. So we have things like infographics for how a bill becomes a law in Virginia and how that's different from the national government. We're also going to be doing a lot of bill tracking as we get into the General Assembly, and I know there was mention of following civics education bills, so perhaps we could be your partner for specifically curating that primary list of what's happening as it's happening. We're going to have footage of floor debates and things like this to share. So, and all of our stuff is inquiry-based, or we aim to make it inquiry-based and aligned to the new social studies standards that just debuted. I'm on my last little sheet. And then lastly, I wanted to this morning assuage some of Jim's concerns of state and local government being taught last, or sometimes not at all, it feels like. I just wanted to share that I know from myself and from skilled teachers that they know how to teach state and local government year-round. At the Civic Summit, I shared that you can't cram Virginia civics into a single lesson or even a single, weeks-long unit. And in fact, brain-based practices, science shows that we're more likely to remember it and apply it if we have spaced practice. So I know teachers are sharing when they teach federalism at the start of the year, they're incorporating state and local there too. We have a resource called Our Local Impact Daily Living resource, where students can explore all the things in their day that led to that made an impact on them that stems from their local and state government. So there's lots of resources there. And again, I just wanted to assuage your fears about that a little bit. There's also a study from the American Historical Association that came out on what's being taught in classrooms around the state, and Virginia was one of 9 states that they did a deep dive on. So rest assured, civics education and state and local government is being taught, but we need more resources for it. And so that's really where VPAP's Civics Navigator is coming into play. One last thing is, I know that Senator Boysko, you mentioned that we know teachers already have a lot on their plate with the upcoming change in standards for social studies, also with accountability measures. So shameless plug, vpap.org/civics. That is where you'll find our resources, and we welcome your feedback on making that better. We're actively working with our panel and with teachers to make that a suitable place, and hopefully we can continue to partner through this commission to bring state and local government and make it stronger for students and teachers around the Commonwealth. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful to learn that you all are there and all that you're doing, because it's great to be able to collaborate. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very important work. Are there other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, hearing none. If there is no more business, then I would say we are adjourned.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.